Hi, I'm Natalia Suri and welcome to my channel of historical, mythological and cultural mysteries. Today I'm in conversation with Hersh Bhardwaj. He's an aspiring filmmaker. His first book, From Adversities to Breakthroughs, was published by HarperCollins. Now what is this book about? If you're confused, you really don't know which way to take, you have that novel written on your table and you really don't know what to do with it, or perhaps even a business venture and you really don't know how to go about it, then this is a must read. Let us talk to Hersh and know how this book is going to break through our confusions. But before that, I need to welcome him to my show. Hi Hersh, how are you?
Thanks for calling, Natalia.
My first question is a very cliched question, which I'm sure you would have answered 1,000 times. Why this book and why this particular topic?
Good question. Not heard for the first time. Why this book? Because this was Toni Morrison once said that if there is a book that you desperately want to read and it hasn't been written, then you should write it. So this was the book that I needed to get out of my system. This was about bringing a person from the depths of adversities to survival, basically. So I was looking for survival in my own life. So this was like a Bible of survival to me, and that's why I needed to write it, and that's why I wrote it. A lot of factors combined to help me to get it published from HarperCollins. It took a long time to get out, but I think this is, I'm proud to have this as my first book.
How do you feel that this book is going to clear your readers' doubts or confusions which a person has in his mind?
See, this book talks about a very simple concept that most of us, at most times in our lives, are stuck in scenarios which we don't know how to get out of, right? I call it adversities, or you can call it a shithole. Everyone goes through it. Doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what country you're born in, rich or poor. So adversities are relative and everyone goes through them. But we don't know, nobody has given us a roadmap, right? Schooling, college, studies, education, we are just left on our own to figure it out, and most of us are not able to figure it out. So I figured it out for myself, and using because I'm a student of literature, so I needed a reference point to build examples from. So I used Arabian Nights as a reference point and kind of built a roadmap that takes me from adversity to the moments of breakthroughs. And I've given examples from all areas of life, from politics to business to entrepreneurship, from religious people and ordinary people as well.
Okay, I want to know, since you've used the folklore of Arabian Nights in this entire book as your theme, so do you believe our religious books of Ramayana and Mahabharata are actually folklores veiled in religion?
That's an interesting question. See, folklore is an interesting term. Folklore, the word folk and lore, if you separate them, it basically means that a group of people said something, and as part of a hearsay, it carried on for a period of time, and then it became a story. That's how mythologies are. Mythologies are a bit more structured in their form. Folklores are not. Ramayana and Mahabharata are actually epic poems, right? So they're structured like Homer's Iliad and Odysseus. They are epic poems. Arabian Nights is more of a folklore, legends that nobody knows where they came from. There is no structured way. We've all heard of the stories. The reason I picked Arabian Nights as the premise of my book was because most of the stories, Aladdin's lamp or Ali Baba and 40 Thieves, most Indians are aware of those stories. And we don't know where these stories came from. What's the whole point? So these small stories are a part of a very wider narrative. So this queen, princess, spent 1001 nights, and she told thousands of stories during those nights. We only know a few. So I wanted to study that and understand how a narrative is created and what a narrative is actually, because our life is a narrative. I'll talk about it a bit more. So a narrative is a collection of all kinds of communication that shape our life. It could be visual, it could be audio, it could be pictures, it could be everything that we're taking in. And narrative controls our lives. So Scheherazade created a narrative deliberately to control her life and the life of the king. Right? The premise of the story, which I think we haven't talked about that. So there is a king called King Shahryar. He would get married every night and set a condition that the queen has to entertain him until dawn. Failing that, she will be killed in the morning. So every queen is getting one night, and in the process he killed so many queens. This girl Scheherazade, she was a princess in another kingdom. She volunteered to come and stop this homicide. She knew fully well that she only has one night. So that one night is a metaphor that I use to think that we have a finite amount of time to get things done. And when we are thinking about adversities in our lives, we often look at longer than needed. Most of the time it's only surviving the night, or surviving the day, or surviving the hour, or surviving the minute. If we get through the minute, the hour, the day, the month, then we will probably survive. So with that metaphor, Queen Scheherazade manages to weave together 1001 nights, eventually winning the love of the king and changing his heart and becoming the crown queen for good. So that's the premise of Arabian.
My question was, you spoke about the Queen Scheherazade, that she had that one night to convince the king. So in our daily lives, where our bosses have their knives hanging on our head, and we are under so much pressure to please them, so you feel that only human mind performs good under pressure, or it has the ability of performing well without pressure also?
Good question. I could sense it coming. See, the primary, if you've read the book, I talk about the intentions in the very first part. Anything you want to do, you should have the right intentions. Why you're doing it. So if you can crack those right intentions, you'll be able to go through hell. Right? So Scheherazade volunteered to get married. She wasn't forced. So she was doing it intentionally and deliberately. So if you are in a job where you're not happy, or you're not doing it, for your happiness, you feel like you're being forced, then you will forever be unhappy. Otherwise, pressure can be motivating force, just like it proves for Scheherazade. Because I don't think without pressure anything converts to diamond. So pressure is a key ingredient to success.
Okay. So I read this book. It talks a lot about conviction and your belief system. So how would you put it that this book is different from the law of attraction books which are available in the market?
Well, I never thought about law of attraction when I was writing this book, but I do read and study a lot of practitioners of law of attraction like Bob Proctor and Abraham Hicks, and quite understand what they're trying to say about asking, believing and receiving. That's what they talk about, and they talk about imagining it before it has happened. Right? They talk about gratitude as if the thing has already happened. They talk about act as if it has already happened. Those are beautiful concepts to hear and read, but so very difficult to practice. What my book talks about, as you see right in the beginning, the first couple of chapters are knowing your story. Why are you doing it? Whatever you want to do, you want to be a filmmaker. What are the actual genuine reasons behind it? You do a little research inside your head and you find a passionate, burning reason. Then you're on the first path. Law of attraction would say that you want to be a filmmaker, you sit back and you imagine yourself directing a Hollywood movie and receiving an Oscar, and it feels good. You're exhilarated in your house, and nothing has happened yet, right? But you feel the exhilaration, and that will move you to work towards it. I'm doing the reverse psychology. I'm not asking you to imagine that it has already happened. I'm asking you to imagine that it hasn't happened, but why you want to do it. The why is so very important. Why did Nelson Mandela choose to spend 27 years in the prison? Why Mahatma Gandhi did what he did, 50 years of struggle, political struggle? Why Steve Jobs worked for Apple, then was discarded away, then he came back, gave his entire life to design the world's most beautiful phone. That was his aim. Why you want to do it? And you cannot lie to yourself. So that's why my book starts from your intention of why. Law of attraction starts from asking. So they never talk about the why. Why do you want to have a Mercedes? They just say, okay, you want a Mercedes? Imagine you have it. I'm asking, why do you want to have it? If you know why you want to have it, you will find reasons that will propel you to work towards it.
I have another question for you. You say about timing playing a very important role in a person's life. So, would you say there's a clash between nature offering the right timing and the person putting in his effort at that time?
Okay. So you're talking about destiny and free will, is it?
Maybe my question is, does effort clash with timing in the sense that we may put our best effort, but if nature's timing doesn't support
Match.
us, so our efforts really don't go through? What would be your opinion on this?
It could turn into a very long rhetorical answer. I believe in one thing. Control the controllables and don't worry about what you cannot control. So what you're supposed to do, you're talking about your action and efforts, you gotta put those efforts in. If not every effort will be fruitful, right? So if 9 out of 10 are not successful, you can blame it on destiny or timing or nature or whatever. But that doesn't mean you stop working at it. So destiny versus free will is a huge philosophical concept that every religion has talked about. We don't want to get into it. I don't know whether there is a destiny destined for every one of us or there is a free will. I have no idea. But I believe in working at it and control the controllables. That's it.
Another thing which I found in this book is that you talk about a person being in a very difficult situation. So if somebody is put in a difficult situation, is kicked out of his job, or perhaps his business venture has failed, how would you say that the person can talk himself out of that negative situation? Because under negative situations, our brain stops working.
Yeah, that's the place I call shithole. I have been there.
Okay.
I'm sure you have also been there,
Each one
unfortunately.
of us, yeah.
So how do you drag out of it? So when you're in the shithole, imagine you're at the bottom of a dark well and the light is far, far ahead. What do? What's the first thing you want to do? The first thing you want to do is to survive, because the initial instinct is not knowing what to do. Right? So I talk about a concept called the S effect. It's called survive long enough and sustain that survival, and then you succeed. So first part is survival. And you got to understand that nothing is permanent. Adversity is part of everyone's life. It's going to be here, but you need to survive, live the night out, live the day out, live this moment out. Even people who are suicidal or who commit suicide, who attempt suicide, they tell the doctors and interviewers later that if they would have just gotten over that one moment, they would have survived. So that moment of frenzy, when you're in adversity, you need to check that. And as I said, minute by minute or hour by hour or night by night, I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. Let's say I have a huge debt and debtors are coming to collect it tomorrow and I don't have the money. So what do? I can kill myself today, or I can try to get until tomorrow without harming myself, and then tomorrow's day, then the day after, because nothing is worse than killing yourself or destroying yourself. That's the worst. There is nothing that can happen to you that will be worse than that. The worst that can happen to you is your embarrassment or your ego getting hurt, those kind of things, So killing yourself or destroying yourself is not the option. You have to survive. You have to just hang on to it. People in the concentration camp during the World War II, the Holocaust, the survivors, this is what they say. They didn't know what's going to happen to them tomorrow, but they hung on to it. They survived day after day, hour after hour of humongous tortures. or they survive. So survival, sustenance and success. That's the S effect. That was the intentional name of the title of the book previously, which the publishers don't like.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the S effect is surviving long enough to sustain that survival, and then you eventually succeed.
I have another question for you. You talk about the 8-second mark.
Hmm.
So if a person fails to make that first impression in that 8-second mark, how would you say, and what would you say to that person, that how to make his impression again?
The 8-second mark is actually a digital concept once the websites came into being. And they did a research and they found that an average browser on a website takes around an average of 8 seconds to decide how long to stay on that site or what to do. So it became a cliche from there. So let's not talk about the 8 second, but the first impression you talk about. Sherzade enters the royal chamber, and she had the S effect that I talked about is also called the Scheherazade effect, or it's also called the intention behind what you're doing, right? So she walked into the bedchamber, the royal bedchamber, armed only with her fingernails, right? And she was there to do what? Right? To stop the killings. How would that happen? Win the night. How would that happen? Weave a narrative of stories towards what? So she had her intentions lined up, stacked up pretty well. She knew exactly what she was going to do. So she walked in like a winner. So this is where law of attraction can come in. So she imagined the last course she wanted to be on. With that confidence she walks in. Not like a timid queen who is expecting death. So there is a difference between the two kind of people. One who is entering timid and fully expecting she'll be murdered in a few hours. One who's entering with a plan and she's fully expecting to be the crowned queen. She could easily kill the king, she could hit a poison dagger or whatever, but killing was not her plan. Her intention was to win his heart. So when she walked in with those intentions, the S effect that I call, then the first impression is always going to be what you want. So you have to intend what you want to impress. If you just walk in and you're hoping for the next person to decide your intentions for you, then it's always going to be them deciding for you. You gotta decide, you gotta intend, you gotta project it onto them. That's the secret of the film stars, the celebrities, all the successful speakers. They project their intentions onto the audience, and it comes back.
What is the mystery of luck according to you? You feel that luck plays a very important role in a person's life, that some people are blessed with divine intervention and some are struggling in their life. So what is your opinion about luck?
I call luck a probability of coincidences.
Okay.
As I talked about the S effect is using your intentions deliberately. So Scheherazade walked into the king's chamber with very specific intentions, what she wanted. And she also was projecting positive expectations. So most of the time in life, most people, not all, we are projecting negative expectations. Okay, this will happen, I might get sick, I might fail in the exam. We are always talking in the negative expectations. We are never excited with the positive expectations. That is what the X effect is. You have to train your mind to do that. So when you are expecting positive things, when you are projecting deliberate intentions towards what you exactly want, you have to do it 24/7. It's not something that you did during your puja first thing in the morning and forgot. The prayer is all about that. This is what you do when you pray in all the religions. But we do it in the morning and we forget. I say that you have to practice it 24/7. And the more you'll project your deliberate intentions, more lucky you'll get. Because things will start happening as you want. Otherwise, when you're not doing it, you're leaving it upon the universe to do it. And when we are not being positive, we are by default negative. That's how it works. So either you pick and choose to be positive, or if you don't do it, you will by default automatically will be negative. So you have to be conscious about it. So more conscious you are, more lucky you'll get. There's no mystery to it.
And I just have enough time to ask you that one line which you would want to tell your reader.
About
About
the book.
yes.
This is the book that will definitely take you from adversities to breakthroughs. Breakthroughs can be anything, landing that first job, or getting that first date, or surviving 1 month in your first office, or getting back from an almost divorced marriage to holding on to your love. So breakthroughs they don't just mean that you become a millionaire or you're driving a BMW or you become. Breakthroughs happen in everyone's lives, and adversities are also there. And most of us want to travel from A to B. This book gives you the roadmap to travel from A to B.
Okay. I had a lovely conversation with you.
Thanks for having me.
In fact, talking to Hersh, I have learned so much about my own self. It has been an insight into my own life as well. I really want to thank him. If you have any other questions for him, you can email me on my email address given below. Thank you so much for joining. Do join me in another mystery which I will unveil very soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care. But do subscribe and press the bell icon.
Thanks for having me.